From 10,000 applicants, these 10 ordinary people have been given the chance to catch a killer in a new television murder mystery game. In the fictional town of Blackwater, a horrific murder is about to take place, a murder the contestants will compete with each other to solve. To stand a chance of winning the £25,000 reward, they're going to receive an insight into murder detection that no civilian in the country has ever been given. In order to succeed in the murder game, they will have to use for real all the knowledge and techniques they'll learn in training. The skills they fail to master and the information that passes them by will come back to haunt them once the investigation gets underway. This week, they'll have to keep their wits about them.
Up until today, their probably only connection with the police has been through TV or if someone's got a speeding ticket.
The thing that I'm looking forward to the most is being able to find out the trade secrets of being a detective.
They are going to receive intensive training for a lot of hours each day.
I think it's just a lot more to do with common sense. I can bring a lot of that into it.
They're going to be physically drained, and it's seeing how we're going to cope with the pressure and how we come out of it at the end.
Police environment, I imagine, would be disciplined, which I'm not very good at.
In fact, we don't train our students as intensively or for as long as they will get this week.
I'm really looking forward to learning forensics, going to police training school. It's just so exciting, get my brain working again.
The best way to learn is to be thrown in at the deep end. You're definitely in at the deep end, ladies and gentlemen.
Because it's forensic pathology, I mean, some of the pictures might be a bit confronting.
Over 5 days, some of the best police trainers and specialists in the country are going to attempt to create an investigation team capable of tracking down and capturing a murderer.
Every death is either accidental, suicidal, homicidal or natural.
This is Bishop Garth, where real murder detectives learn their trade. Between them, course leaders Leo Cullen and George Phillips have spent 50 years in the force and have worked on as many murder inquiries. The contestants, however, have no such experience and have been drawn from a wide range of backgrounds and professions, a fact they're discovering for themselves.
He's a pilot. Oh yeah?
Apparently. What about yourself?
This is where
the railway lines, work on the railway lines? Yeah.
They may only have just arrived, but are already in class. Their assignment is to play at being detective and interview each other as rigorously as they can.
I figured that you work in fashion, because I heard that. What sort of thing?
I work in menswear. I'm a visual merchandiser in menswear.
All right, what kind of labels?
What's the most exciting thing you've ever done?
Do you think you'll make a good detective?
Of course it will.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Really? You look so much younger. Partner?
No.
Hola, me llamo Melanie Sainz, tengo 21 años. A este momento no trabajo, pero antes bailaba gogo. I think everyone's always been fascinated about murders and crime, because murders and crimes is something that you're not allowed to do. So the thought of being able to see why someone has done a murder really fascinates me.
Melanie was raised in Mallorca, but now lives above her boyfriend's London pub, where, having retired at the ripe old age of 21, her lifestyle affords her the time to indulge her two main interests: horse riding and armchair investigating.
I've always been the sort of person, I love all the crime programs and always say, you know, the first 2 minutes, he did it, you know, and I always used to get it right. So I think it's just a lot more to do with common sense than anything else, which I hope I can bring a lot of that into it.
One thing that Mel's got going for her, she's got a very methodical mind. She'll go take her time and do everything right, double check things. Everything is neat and tidy and organised before she'll go on to the next stage.
If I do win the show, I will prove to the world, you know, that I'm not just a dumb blonde dancer, you know, that's not going to do anything with her life.
Last night, the trainee investigators were told that lessons would begin at 9 o'clock. What they weren't told was that Leo would be waking them up at 6:30 with an unpleasant surprise.
Good morning, Meryl. Is that Melanie?
It is.
It's Leo, Melanie.
Oh, 1 minute.
Can we have you down in reception for 7 a.m, please, in your gym kit, and then we're going to have a briefing.
I should be there. I should enjoy being there.
Okay. Could we have you down at
It
reception?
may be cruel, but there's good reason for the rude wake-up.
Briefing. In your gym kit. The police force is a 24 hours a day service. Anything can come in at any time of day or night, and if you're on call, that's what you'll get. We've been quite fortunate this morning that it's been 6:30 and not 1:30 or 2 a.m, as it normally is.
The same goes for the investigators. When they reach Blackwater, they could be called out at all times of the night and will be working round the clock. The police want to see which of the trainee investigators are up to it.
We're going to be putting you through something called a bleep test.
The infamous bleep test is one of the benchmarks used to gauge the condition of aspiring police officers. They must run between two lines, keeping up with a series of bleeps that quickly speed up. To pass requires 6 minutes of solid running. If you fail to reach a line before the bleep, then you're not up to scratch. It's a tough test. Before long, the last woman remaining is retired pole dancer Melanie. 55-year-old farmer Andrew does well to outclass 34-year-old Nick. Rory manages to hang in there to reach the target time, but going way beyond it, Mervyn decides to fight marathon-loving Richard for the title of King of the Bleeps.
You could be here for days, man.
Unfortunately, Mervyn runs out of steam.
Oh, Mr. Hill Climb.
Hi, I'm Mervyn. I'm 30 years old. I live in Hackney, London, and I'm a visual merchandiser.
It's Mervyn's job to ensure that the menswear department of a busy London store looks the business and is laid out in order to maximise sales.
One of the qualities that I've got is that I've got a good eye for detail, and that's probably what I've taken on board from my day-to-day work activities. My job is completely about visual aspects, so those skills will put me in good stead as far as working out clues and going through the whole sort of process.
You need to separate it so it casts more of an interest.
I think that skill is going to help me in a sense that when we're out there investigating, asking questions, taking on board information, I think it will help me in those lines, because it's a skill that I've trained up and I've had for years.
He says his ambition is being the best at everything he does, and his greatest fear is not achieving that ambition. It's an attitude he's bringing with him to the murder game.
I think I'm a very competitive person. My brother would probably tell you how competitive I am, whether it be PlayStation, squash or anything. I always want to win.
If I go back to the situation when we were younger and we started playing football, I mean, if Mervyn was on the other side to me, it wouldn't even be like we were brothers. I mean, we've been pulled apart when we were younger because he's so competitive.
For me to say to you right now, I just want to participate, I just want to be here because I just love the experience of being alive, because I want to be here, because I want to win the competition.
The final part of the fitness test measures upper body strength on a resistance machine.
Recover.
The police pass mark for this assessment is a push of 34 kilograms, and most seem to be scraping through.
One more big effort.
However, for Mervyn, it's not just about passing, it's about making up for his earlier defeat.
Best effort of 92. Well done.
By 9 o'clock, the trainee investigators are in class, brainstorming the qualities they'll need as criminal investigators. At lunchtime, they visit the CCTV control room in Leeds, where they're told how important video footage can be in any police inquiry. It's an area they'll have to remember when they play the murder game. Let's hope they're paying attention. When they get back to the training centre, waiting for them is a masterclass from one of Britain's leading scenes of crime officers.
I am, for want of a better term, the hunter-gatherer of the sort of the forensic world. I spend my whole life, what's this, what's that, what's the other? Now today I'm not just going to be talking to you, you are actually going to be looking at potential crime scenes. You are going to be learning how to fingerprint, how to take elimination fingerprints, how to take DNA samples from each other. All of these could be relevant later on.
Crime scene management is the bread and butter, or the very basis that the investigations are founded upon. If you don't get that right, then you're struggling to recover what you've lost at the scene.
It's making sure that wherever possible we can ensure that when we do get to a court situation we can present correct, accurate evidence that hasn't been tainted and hasn't been contaminated.
Almost everything Jill teaches the trainee investigators today will be tested in the murder game. They quickly realise how crucial the session is and start scribbling furiously.
Your scene is whatever it turns out to be. Your scene can be a house. Your scene can be a room. Your scene can be a person. Your scene can be a field. Your scene is whatever can give you potential evidence. When I walk through a door into a crime scene, I actually start at floor level. Is the carpet fibres all pilled because somebody's tried to clean off something on the floor? Then you work your way up. Anything up the walls that's of interest. Has the picture been moved? Is the picture missing? I'm taking in what's there, what's not there.
When the murder game begins, the investigators are going to be responsible for identifying and protecting any crime scenes they encounter. Jill takes the group outside to examine the scene of a break-in that she prepared earlier by climbing through the classroom window.
Any footprints in the grass, wet grass?
That's scuff marks. Is that sort of
the wire?
Footprints up towards
the wire there, the cables hanging, skid mark on.
Will the way they physically approach a crime scene during the murder game cause them to miss or even destroy a piece of critical evidence, such as a footprint or fibre?
There's two actually. You've got footprints, haven't you?
As investigators, they must have the patience and professionalism to notice every clue the scene has to offer, not just the most obvious.
Oh, something definitely on there.
On the radiator? So you walk up to that.
You've done a very methodical job. You've noticed the leaves on the floor. You've noticed the scuff marks up the wall. You've noticed the fingerprints on the outside and on the inside. The only thing I'm grateful for is that there isn't any CCTV footage of me actually coming through, because undignified wasn't in it.
When it comes to placing a suspect in a crime scene, few pieces of physical evidence are as useful as fingerprints.
Fingerprints are very, very delicate things, and the last thing you want to do is sort of hit it hard with an emulsion brush and take it through. It's all about being delicate. It's all about sort of gently processing the article that you have. It's not like painting. It's a much, much more delicate art. The best way to learn is to be thrown in at the deep end. You're definitely in at the deep end, ladies and gentlemen. Sounds like you've got the same joy I get every time I get one. That is a very, very good effort. Very, very good.
Well, I thought I'd filled it all in at first, but when you hold it up to the light,
The trainee investigators will need to absorb all they can concerning fingerprinting techniques, because later in the murder game, their success will depend upon it.
Just to give you a demonstration, the reason I said light application to start with is if you put it on too hard, you can actually end up filling in your mark.
The implications of bad crime scene management are very serious. Ultimately, at court, you could lose the case. That's not good, because if you don't do your job professionally, if you don't do it with integrity, not only are you letting yourself down in the service, but more importantly, you're letting the victim and the victim's family down. And we can't allow that.
When the investigators are playing the murder game, the penalty for mistakes will also be high. They may cost them their place on the investigation.
You are a blank sheet of paper upon which your investigation will be drawn. Consider everything. assume nothing, dismiss nothing, no matter how insignificant it looks.
Before they can call it quits for the day, they're called back into class to be taught the ins and outs of alibis, timelines, ethics and confidentiality. It's what Leo and George would call a full schedule.
Today's not been too bad, I can't lie.
A lot of work covered today, interesting work. Hope that will come in handy next week.
It feels like I've been here for about 3 days.
I quite happily go to bed like now.
I think we've got off quite lightly today. I'm hoping the pace will pick up a little bit.
My name's Richard Sharrocks, I'm 32, I'm a commercial pilot and I'm married to Julie. We live in Northumberland with our budgie, our 2 dogs and our 2 horses.
Superfit Richard leads a very full life. In a good year, he'll squeeze the odd 60-mile marathon in, and he spends most of his free time running and cycling around hilly Northumbria. Currently, he makes his living flying jumbo jets all over Europe, but prior to that, he was an army helicopter pilot.
I've been out of the army now a couple of years, and I think that in those couple of years I've mellowed a bit. So I'm hoping that people aren't going to look at me and think, oh, you know, he's an army officer, he's telling us to do this, that and the other, and we're not his soldiers.
Richard's military career took him to Northern Ireland and Bosnia, among other regions of instability, where his natural leadership skills enabled him to become a platoon commander.
I'd like to think that my role within the group is going to be a bit of a leader. I don't necessarily like following, but there again, if there's a very good leader, I will quite happily follow them. However, if there's not, I'll want to push myself to the front and say, no, I think I should take charge of this.
I think there are a couple of things about Richard which will make him a good investigator. He's got a very logical mind, and he's got a degree in mathematics, but so it probably does show that there is some logicality there. He can be impatient to get results, and he may upset people in his impatience to get there.
I'd always considered being a detective or joining the police and hopefully going on to be a detective if I was so lucky. So I'm looking forward to actually having that opportunity to do something that I'd always thought of as a career.
One of the biggest problems for the police is on the identification front. So what we decided to do was stage an incident on the Monday afternoon whilst the students were having coffee.
The lady came down the stairs and dropped her box, which made such a clang that everybody looked.
I have to say that as the thing dropped, whether it's the housewife in me, but the first thing I was thinking of was picking up all this mess.
3 or 4 of our wonderful investigators rushed to help.
Anyway, she picked up all these things, or we helped her as well, and then she scuttled off. Nothing more was thought of it.
And so it was quite a surprise the next day for them to suddenly make us all think about that incident again and say, right, describe that woman.
Yesterday, the trainees were asked to identify the qualities they as individuals would need as investigators. The whole group felt that being observant was among the most important. They were right. Although barely a day has gone by, they are finding their memories poor allies.
What are we going to start with?
Male, female.
We're all going female?
White female.
5'4" to 5'6", I thought.
I'm short. 5'4".
Anything less than 5'3"?
Going.
Right.
Identification is a difficulty in that various people could view an incident and have a different perception of what that person looked like that was involved in it.
I just put fairish.
Fairish? Well, I was going to say plain.
Plain looking then. Is that what you're saying, Andrew?
She want my cup of tea, Leo.
Anything else on?
They won't find their flaws so amusing when they're playing the murder game. If their powers of observation let the investigation down, they'll be facing elimination.
So we've got a white male, female, mousy blonde, fairish hair. It's short, it's wavy, it's straight. Between 27 and 40. She's plain looking and she's got pale skin with freckles. Do you see how the difficulty with identification issues? It's like I said yesterday, some things that you don't think are significant at one point of the inquiry can turn out to be very significant further down the line.
I thought it was a chap. Hello, I'm Meryl Holt and I'm 56. I have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren, and I live in a village in Gloucestershire.
With the pretty country cottage in a charming idyllic village and husband Rod's vintage motor, Meryl could be a character from any Miss Marple mystery.
I think she watches almost every detective series that comes on television and is way ahead of me when it comes to, if she's guessed it halfway through, who's done the deed. And so this is an opportunity as near as possible for her to do that in real life.
48.
Wife, mother and grandmother, Meryl is also the village's resident bingo caller and a feared regular at the local tennis club. But her favourite diversion is indulged behind closed doors.
I've always done crosswords, and so I started subscribing to this magazine called Tough Puzzles, and I find it's my relaxation.
She's very dogmatic about things. She will continue with puzzles right to the end. I've never known her to give up on a puzzle.
My younger daughter rang up not long ago and she said, "Mummy, keep doing your puzzles because apparently it keeps Alzheimer's and senility at bay, so I'm going to keep doing them."
Recalling the mysterious box dropper has well and truly flummoxed the trainee investigators. However, having kept quiet during the earlier free-for-all, Nick surprises everyone by volunteering to describe the mystery woman for the EFIT team who have arrived to generate a likeness.
And what about the eyebrows?
Very faint.
Faint, so
yeah.
As more on the
wasn't
light
a
colour.
really outstanding feature on her face. And I had a very clear picture in my mind of what she did look like, but because some of the other people were so confident, she was definitely wearing glasses. Oh, she was actually quite fat. And I thought, well, this isn't the woman that I saw. I remember us not having any makeup on, but yet she did have quite a strong mouth.
Yeah.
I did the best I could from my memory. I didn't think she had glasses. And I thought, I'm really going out and I'm taking a big risk here. I'm going to look like an idiot if she walks in and she's a small plump lady with wavy hair and glasses.
I'm just going to say thanks very much everybody yesterday for helping when I got downstairs.
That would be sufficient for our needs.
When she did walk in and she was almost a dead ringer for my EFIT, I was just overjoyed, and people just turned around and were like, "Wow, Nick," as though like that's your skill.
Neither of the EFIT people knew who the subject was, and the likeness, it's uncanny. If I'd have had that on an incident, I'd have been really happy, yeah.
Hi, my name's Nick Sykes. I'm originally from Huddersfield in West Yorkshire, and over the last few years I've made most of my money through property renovating.
Nick spends much of his time driving up and down the streets of Huddersfield, keeping a keen eye on the for sale signs.
Basically what I do is shop around for a real bargain of a property. I do all the renovation work myself, and then once the house is finished, then advertise it privately for sale and usually get a buyer on the first day.
You can really look into things in depth, and he's a good analyser of situations. He doesn't jump to conclusions or anything like that, you know. He has to look at the whole picture first before he makes any judgments on anything. And then the thing is, he's usually right as well.
It's got a nice view out here.
Nick has the advantage of a law degree, which has helped him hone his analytical powers, as well as whetting his appetite for the murder game.
The thing that I'm looking forward to the most about this programme is being able to find out the trade secrets of being a detective. By instinct, I'm quite a nosy, kind of investigative kind of guy, and I like to kind of know the full facts about everything, and I don't like to be kept in the dark. So to be able to find out how the police operate and how they would investigate a murder is fantastic. You know, who gets in regular life the chance to do this?
One of the immediate tasks the investigators will face when they play the murder game is bagging evidence at the scene of the crime. If they aren't paying attention now, some may fall at the first hurdle.
I've got a number of items, clothing, instruments, things that could be evidence in relation to your journey over the next few weeks. So I'm going to ask you to package these particular items as you feel they should be packaged.
Actually, pass the pencil.
No. Just pop it straight in there and it goes label it up straight off to the scientist's desk, yeah.
Do you want to put it in the bag?
I don't think so.
Hi, my name's Sarita Raval. I'm 29 from South London. I used to be a recruitment consultant, now I'm not.
Sarita jacked in her high-flying career to start a new one behind the scenes in the theatre. However, it's the interrogation skills she honed in the hard-nosed world of recruitment that will stand her in good stead.
She's very good at asking probing questions. If anyone has a secret, she's going to find it out. Much to my disappointment and her other friends. We can't keep anything from her, so I think that helps. I think I'm quite observant, and I think it's one of the skills that's probably going to be required, and probably the ability to get on with people.
Having previously made her living evaluating people's strengths and weaknesses, she can be honest about her own.
And of course it'd be nice to win, but I'm impatient and I can be quite forgetful, which in a show like this are probably the worst qualities you could ever have, because you've got to work with other people and I don't think you could afford to forget.
Most people think it's just putting things in a brown paper bag and sellotaping it up. Well, that's not the case.
Does it say what leg they are?
Sometimes a case can balance on the quality of your exhibits.
It's also very complex because each different type of exhibit has a different type of handling and dealing with that exhibit.
If that went to court...
Exhibit specialist Paul is only too aware that bagging up is something that can seem like a routine procedure that's carried out after all the real detective work has been done.
Then all sorts of...
With that in mind, he set a few traps for the trainee investigators.
Yeah. Did you check the pockets?
It says, I did it, Paul Martin. Thank you very much.
Richard and Merrill also missed a trick with their item.
Did you notice it was a mask?
No, we didn't.
Yeah?
No, we didn't.
So it's worth just having that little bit of a look.
In the bag, you could...
It's slip-ups like these that cost cases. Once again, the trainee investigators have been confronted with their shortcomings as detectives. For the second time, the trainee investigators find themselves in the gym. The characters they encounter in the murder game will behave as unpredictably as people do in real life.
And again. Get back.
The trainee investigators must not shy away from physical contact when necessary.
Good, come on, get back.
Tonight's lesson includes a few simple tricks for escaping unwelcome contact and baton techniques. They are all skills that are highly effective once they've been mastered, but rather dangerous before then.
Nice one, John.
Hello, I'm Sam Matthews. I'm 30 years of age and I'm a communications centre officer working with elderly and people with special needs.
Sam speaking, can I help you?
I've been working in a control centre for 12 years now. There is another side to me, that at night time I do actually own a karaoke business, and so I get my glad rags on and a wig and go and entertain.
Behind every great artist, there's someone to set up the electronic equipment. In this case, husband Sean.
Must have been cold there in my shadow.
Sam's interest in crime, however, goes beyond giving the people of Telford an opportunity to murder classic records.
I've always been interested in murder mysteries and obviously the situations, having children. I've never had the opportunity to go on a murder mystery weekend or anything like that. So when this came up, my husband was really thinking, oh, that will do for Sam.
She likes watching these investigating films and that, and I think I've even told her she'd make a good investigator, because when she questions me after I've been out or something, you know, I'm thinking, bloody hell, she's good.
I've got everything around me that I could ever possibly want. I've got my children, I've got my husband, I've got my home. I always seem to be doing things for other people, so it'd be nice to take just time out for myself and do something exciting, and I can look back in years to come and say, I did that.
Back in the gym, the group are taking turns to square up with instructor Carl, who's playing the role of a potentially violent assailant.
All I say is deal with whatever comes before you.
I don't get back, I'm started you.
Well, me, I don't know if you're wrong.
The idea is that the trainees use the techniques they've been taught to land a blow he can feel through his padding. Christine's newly learnt double palm strike doesn't have the desired effect, so she tries out a slightly unorthodox move of her own. It's decided that the trainees will go unarmed from then on.
You'd have to explain it to a jury.
He's got a hat on. Hello, I'm Christine Rose. I'm 30-something, which I'm not going to disclose. I'm married to Malcolm. I'm a housewife, and I'm a very busy housewife, actually.
Christine is one of the few mums in Britain who can justify the size of the car they use for the school run. Christine's 8 children, Sammy, Cindy, Rosie, Jessica, Daniel, Luke, Martin and Katrina, were all born more or less back to back, and their mum's not ruling out the chance of more additions to the Rose family.
She likes a challenge, and I think, to be honest with you, she'd be very good at being a detective. She's a very nosy person, so that helps.
At Christine's request, builder husband Malcolm designed the extension to their Warrington home to give Christine a 360-degree view of potential disturbers of the peace.
It's not that I'm a nosy person and I try not to be. No, I like being nosy. I'm not nosy in a nasty way. I'm not maliciously nosy. You know, like, I'm just generally curious.
With all her children still living at home, there's plenty to keep her occupied for now. One thing they've taught her is not to take things too seriously.
I've got a good sense of humour, and I think you're going to need that. I definitely think after a couple of weeks, you're going to need it. And I hope everybody's got a good sense of humour, or they'll be fed up with me.
Hello, what are you doing here?
Just burgle the house.
I'll tell my daddy.
Tell your daddy, he's not here.
Get away!
What was that for?
Because you're coming near me, don't come near me.
Your father used to work with don't go
When Andrew's time comes, he has a very different approach.
No, you support Leeds United because I got 4 tickets for Saturday. You and whoever you want to take, me and whoever you want to take. I got a place we can go after. I got a bloke who knows a restaurant. You got a few beers we can have. We can have a hell of a night. And your old man, tell him to come round Sunday, see our old dad. They haven't seen one of their fears. They get on champion, mate. Good lad.
Okay folks, my name's Kath Sanderson. I think we've met before, haven't we? I've got a different shirt on today, okay? There's a chief superintendent of this force who recently undertook a survey looking at witness statements, and what he deduced from that was that 40% of all the information contained in witness statements actually belongs to the person that's taken that statement. Why does that happen? How does that happen?
Putting words into people's mouths.
Putting words into people's mouths. And that's not about being corrupt.
No.
No? I mean, we need to be really clear about that. How do we put words into people's mouths?
Reading questions.
Reading questions, yeah.
Making suggestions.
Making suggestions, yeah.
They say something, you put it into your own words.
Put it into your own words.
It's very important that when interviewing witnesses and suspects that it's done in the correct manner.
You can't just go in and guess it. You have to have structure and you have to plan beforehand.
With suspects, it's very important that you follow all the guidelines, because it may be that if you breach those guidelines, then the evidence would be inadmissible and you may well lose an admission.
You folk need to remember that as a police investigator you've got lots of power, and people actually want to please you. They do want to please.
The investigators' skill at getting information from interviewees will be a key to their success in the murder game. But will they pick up on everything that's let slip?
80% of all communication is non-verbal. NVC is non-verbal communication. We'll do a little bit of an exercise, I think. My mother buys me monkeys every year for Christmas, so this is the latest one. Well, I'd like you to, and what's your name? Andrew. Pull one out of there inside the monkey's head. Okay, and that will give you a mood state. If you'll stand up here now and non-verbally express that mood state, non-verbally.
6 numbers. Wow, wow, wow. Am I going to spend some money? Yes, yes, I got them. All these years lottery. Wow.
That was good, that was good. No. And if you know what he's trying to express, what mood, excited, yeah, you got that. Thank you, Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew Weaver. I live in the West Country and I'm a farmer. I have 2 children, Emma and Nigel, a wife called Andrea and a dog called Gizmo.
Born and bred in the rolling Somerset countryside, Andrew has worked all his life as a dairy farmer. And following at least 4 generations of his Weaver ancestors, he took over the business from his father. Asked to describe his life in 5 words, Andrew chose content but unfulfilled. After 50 years of farming, it appears he's looking for a bit of novelty.
When I saw the programme advertised, I thought that would be absolutely fantastic for me to exercise my imagination, solve a crime, be in a different environment, and to actually do something completely different that lots of people would actually give their high teeth to do.
Like all farmers, he's a bit on the snoopy side, and he likes to know about everybody's business without giving too much away of his own. But yeah, he'd make a very good detective because he's very snoopy.
This morning, what I'm going to do is have a look at a person's role who you may or may not have heard of, family liaison officer, on a murder. What do you know about family liaison then?
If your child's been murdered or someone in your family, they will go round and talk to you. Yeah. And just be, really, I would say, the liaison between the family and the police force.
The family liaison officer in any inquiry is a vital cog within the investigation.
It's important that the family are kept fully aware of what's going on, that the family have some form of contact with the inquiry, and that the family feel a part of the inquiry.
So
this morning, some of the group are going to try out the job for themselves. Waiting in a room outside are 2 actors who will play the role of recently bereaved people. There are also suspects.
Right, we should be all set now, folks.
It will be the investigators' job to interview them, while the rest of the group watch next door via CCTV. First up are Nick and Sam. The trainees don't know it yet, but their first trial in the murder game will be dealing with the victim's family only hours after the murder. It's a critical event. If they get off to the wrong start, the relationship with the family may break down. Consequences will be dire.
We were quite nervous when we went in. We weren't quite sure what we were going to find or how we would deal with it between us. We hadn't had a chance to really talk about, you do the questions, I'll do the observation, nothing like that.
Do you know where Gary was tonight?
Yeah. Where? He was in Leeds.
All I knew is that I had to go and talk to a female whose partner had just been killed outside a gay nightclub.
Right.
Were you just at home? Was he?
I know this is very difficult. It must be so difficult.
Where is he?
What sort of person was he? I don't know what Gary was like. It's just one of the areas.
Only a few police officers put themselves forward for what some consider as one of the hardest jobs in the force.
It was a gay club, and we just wondered if any of
In the game, the investigators will have to put personal and provocative questions to people that they would never ask in regular life. It's not going to be easy.
were any of the friends homosexual?
Why do you want to know what he's like? No.
I would not like to do that as a job. even though it was only an actress, I was getting in on her emotions, and I was like, you know, I really felt for her.
Do you want to go and check on your daughter? No, I'd have heard her. Okay. I'd have heard her.
Right, I'll go and give them a knock.
This is something of a double lesson for the group. When the murder game begins, everyone they meet will be an actor. The trainee investigators must get used to this and treat them as if they were real witnesses and suspects. The trainee investigators' hard work in the classroom has been rewarded with an evening trip to the force's firing range. First, Martin Jeffrey shows the trainee investigators some of the firearms the police have at their disposal. Then they are let loose on the police's firearms training simulator. How they perform will reveal the speed of their reactions and if they can remain calm in a crisis.
Hey, what's going on here? I'm a police officer. Put the weapon down now!
They're both qualities they will need if they're to stand a chance of winning the game.
I was given what I consider to be one of the harder simulating scenes. Hello?
Oh, actually scared me, yeah. Fuse is burned out of the house. I needed a knife to get the fuse out.
It was confusing, very fast, and I made a complete idiot of myself.
Okay, no problem. I can imagine it kind of looks kind of funny, doesn't it?
No, put your hands up now, please. Oh God, that was awful.
I was thinking so bad.
I was, of course, I had the gun up straight away. Guilty before innocent. One shot wonder, McNally, like, got him.
Hello, my name's Rory McNally from County Tyrone, Northern Ireland, living in London, occupation working on the railway lines.
Outside his job in railway maintenance, Rory is a self-confessed couch potato who loves to joke and loaf in equal measures. However, it would be a mistake to write him off.
Well, my best qualities for being a good investigator would probably be a quick learner. Like, you only have to tell me something once, like, it'll stick in my head. And plus, I find myself cute being suss things out very quickly, you know what I mean?
Very often if he's given something to do, particularly maybe if he's up against it and he's maybe not expected to do it, then he'll really apply himself and be determined to succeed in whatever task he's been given.
Put your hands above your head. On, please!
I think he's dead.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
On, please! Look at the weapon!
Ease now.
Police! Come out of that room! Police! Come out of that room! Put your weapon down! I killed them both! I did probably the only thing that isn't possible, and I killed 2 men with 1 bullet. I was actually quite impressed with that.
As the course draws to its close, the 10 seem to be getting on famously. Ultimately, however, they are competitors, and opinions are starting to form from within the group and from outside.
Nick, to me, I think I'd have him in the police force tomorrow.
Very good looking. I mean, very good looking. Not that that's got to do with anything.
It wouldn't surprise me if Nick had done some reading or some research about investigations prior to his arrival on the course.
Andrew, I think, is very knowledgeable.
On speaking with him, he certainly had more knowledge than what he displayed in class.
I'm not sure what he would bring to the team.
He didn't interact with the group as much as I expected. That may be a problem.
Rory, the group comedian, but a lot brighter than what he'd like people to think.
He acts about, but he listens. You know he's listening. He's taking it on board.
Rory, I believe, could be the one that comes through at the end of the day. He's a stalking horse, is Rory. Sam is a people person.
My favourite member of the whole team is Sam. I think she's got a very quick mind.
I was impressed as soon as you told me she was a housewife, because she seemed very intelligent. So really I found a bit posh at the start, but I got to know her and she was a nice girl.
Very laid back, very chilled, nothing seems to bother her, nothing seems to faze her.
Out of everyone in the class, she was the sleepy one.
She'll have gained the knowledge and she'll have stored the knowledge, but whether she can be bothered to use it is another matter.
It's breakfast time at the training centre, and the investigators are loading up with brain food to see them through their final day.
Spot the pig.
Bishop Garth has been home to the trainees for 5 days, but from tomorrow they'll be living here at HQ. This is where the murder game investigators will live and work throughout the case. However, to solve the crime, they will have to leave the security of HQ and go out into the unpredictable world of Blackwater. Only there will they be able to gather the vital evidence that will enable them to stay in the game.
This will be handy.
George is outside preparing an investigation scenario that will give the trainee investigators a sense of what's to come in the murder game.
Behind the sun visor we'll put a reward card in. The reward card hasn't got any identification, but there's a serial number, so they should, if they find it, they should seize that, and we'll put a knife in. Now we've got to be careful with the knife, but we are going to give them a health warning, so we need to hide this somewhere, but we're really going to have to look to find it.
He's hiding a number of items of potential value as evidence inside a car and around the training centre's exercise house, where a pretend murder victim waits amid what police professionals would call an orgy of evidence. The trainees will be expected to find every item and correctly package each one in the way they've been trained. However, George is keen that they shouldn't find everything and decides on a hiding place that's an old favourite.
The police have been called to a disturbance at an address nearby. There is a body. I need you to get down there, and I need you to get down there now, before anything happens to that house. What we wanted to do is build up towards the end of the course and try and put into practice what they'd been taught, what they'd learnt during the week. That was the theory.
Although they must all take responsibility for securing the scene, they have been divided up to search the car and the house.
We told them quite clearly before we left that all the equipment they needed was in that room and to bring it with them.
They acted as individuals, they went to the boxes with the equipment in and just took what they thought they required, and you can't solve any investigation of that magnitude acting as an individual.
This is the final dress rehearsal, a chance to try out everything they have learnt. When the murder game begins tomorrow, they'll be doing it for real.
Any exhibits you seize, retain, we will take them off you, properly sealed and packaged, at the end of the exercise. Look at the address, assess it, identify the number of scenes, deal with it.
Who's got? Right. You guys have got the coordinates. Yeah. Can we get them
With no one taking control, Richard assumes responsibility, or at least tries to.
Yeah, we're now two teams, but in one unit. We're all working together.
Okay, so I've got the coordinates.
So those guys are going to do the inside of the house. So we'll do the outside.
All right. Okay. Fine, yeah.
So they'll go in. Yeah. So do you want to drop the box?
Yeah.
Here. We'll set up some cordons. Okay.
Yeah.
Richard dispatches Melanie to cordon off the scene. Unfortunately, the others are already standing in it, and without their protective search suits. If this were a genuine crime scene, by now any piece of evidence found outside the house may have been cross-contaminated, and therefore of questionable value in court.
I'm prepared.
Despite Leo's instruction, only Merrill bothers to suit up outside the cordon. Elsewhere, Christine's at the police line, taking her personnel logging duties very seriously.
See your ID, please. Yeah. There you go. Proof of ID. Right, that's okay. Okay.
No, I haven't, Leo.
Rory, Molly.
Proof of ID, please.
Thing. Jacket.
The first 24 hours of any murder inquiry are the most critical. The clock's been ticking at this scene for 15 minutes. Some of the trainees are still in their civvies. George is beginning to wonder why.
One step
When we got down there, it transpired that half of them had equipment and half of them didn't, and it was still in the class.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people without suits. We brought them from the classroom. Get suited up, people.
Were a bit of a mess, to be quite honest, like for the first 10 minutes or so. In fact, more than that.
We looked like we was headless chickens outside, and it was like going a little bit pear-shaped, but apart from that, when we started to lock it down and people knew what they were doing, I think we coped pretty well.
Having suddenly found their focus, the group splits up and they knuckle down to the business of searching the house and car.
Right.
The murder game will provide the investigators with plenty of chances to apply their searching skills, but few situations will be as straightforward or as comfortable as today's.
Identity card that she was holding in her left hand.
I found a note.
Rain or shine, day and night, they will find themselves scouring locations for those pieces of evidence that may keep them on the case. Investigators who don't come up to scratch won't last long.
For the first time being on a crime scene, I think I performed very well, to be honest. Worked well as a team. Strange when you see a live person. Well, not live, it's meant to be dead, of course, but strange when there's an actual person there. But I enjoyed it.
Oi, look at that! Got a knife.
Oh, great. This morning's exercise, it scared me. I don't know, it sort of suddenly seemed real. George seemed different. He was obviously sterner. He wanted to get us going.
At least it's on the drop bit.
It made us appreciate that you're against the clock. So I think today's exercise made us learn to be more efficient in the first 10 minutes of getting there and allocating roles and allocating a structure to what we're trying to do.
They're back. Someone's arm in the boot.
You've still got to treat them gently. Did anybody bring him? The thing that we've got to remember is that 5 days ago, members of the public, like we said earlier on, I wouldn't have them anywhere near a scene at this stage, but they've done well. They've tried really hard, and you can't ask no more than that.
Leo, George and the combined expertise of Bishop Garth have done all they can to transform the contestants into an investigation unit capable of catching a killer. But only one of them will triumph in the murder game.
I would think perhaps Nick and Mervyn would be the final two, because they're fairly evenly balanced characters. They get on with all the rest of the group, and they display the skills and abilities that you need as a good investigator.
I think my first one would be Christine, purely because I think she's intelligent, I think she's got a lot of experience, and she'll get on with everyone. She could surprise a few people. And the other one, I think I've got to go with my heart and go with Merv, purely because he will get on with people, he is focused, and he will work hard, and I think people will respect that.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, as you're well aware, it's the end of the course that you've been attending at Bishop Garth, Wakefield. So to mark your presence here and the success that you've had this week, we've got one or two little mementos for you. So without further ado, if we can have Dame Medal Holt And what you get in medal is a certificate to say that you've attended the Special Investigators course at Bishop Yard, an assessment of your fitness test.
If somebody had asked me yesterday or the day before how my chances were, I would say middling. I would say I don't think I'll fail straight away, but I would doubt that I could get through to the end. As I feel today, I might go right at the beginning. I think I'll probably be out by the end of next week.
I think my chances are very good. I'm not the loudest, and I'm not the funniest, and I'm not the one that falls asleep all the time. I am somewhere in the middle of all that.
I think the start of the week, I think it didn't seem really that real, you know what I mean? I thought a holiday camp. But now I like to do well, and I feel I can do well in it, and I hope I do well in it.
There you go, Sam.
Thank you very much. I'd like to think that I stand as much chance as anyone else of winning. I mean, obviously I'd like to, but then the pessimistic side of me thinks you're going to be the first to go. But somebody's got to be. So, might be me.
Not quite sure how I rate my chances on this. Obviously, like everyone, I'd like to win. Don't know if that's going to happen. There are some good people out there.
There is a criminal number.
At some point, they've been taught every piece of knowledge and expertise necessary to solve the case and stay in the game. The murder game jackets will protect them while they're out following up leads, and their special investigator IDs are passports to the fictional world of Blackwater. All they need now is a crime to solve. Later that day, they begin their journey to Blackwater and HQ.
I think I have a pretty good chance, really, because I have been listening to everything going on, and it has been going in, and I'd like to think that I'm quite good at it.
We're participating in something that involves a lot of teamwork, and you are only as strong as your weakest link. I hope to see myself right there in the end, but who knows?
I've not really thought that far ahead. Just looking forward to going there, playing the game and doing the best I can, really. And you never know. Miracles happen.
Well, I look at it like this. There's 10 runners. There's no previous form. They're in a race. They're going to get stored up and they're going to go. So if it's good going for some on the inside, they'll make it. If it's sticky on the outside, you won't. So I suppose 10 runners, 10% chance.
Little do they know, in a matter of moments, the murder game will be underway.